in those experiences. There is a way to surrender to God's love and will when we are tempted to lash out or be judgmental, even when it is difficult. There is a way to give our lives in service to others without becoming chronically exhausted. How are all these things possible? The answer lies in intentionally rearranging our days to routinely integrate the Christian practice of being still and silent in God's presence. An ancient and revolutionary spiritual discipline. The purpose of this book is to introduce you to this spiritual discipline that is both ancient and revolutionary. It's called the daily office. The daily office provides a structured way of spending time with God each day, but it differs from what we tend to think of as quiet time or devotions. Quiet time and devotions normally take place once a day, usually in the morning, and focus on getting filled up for the day, or on interceding for the needs of others. The daily office takes place at least twice a day, and is not so much about turning to God to get something, as it is turning to God to simply be with Him. The goal of the daily office is to pay attention to God throughout the entire day, in the midst of our activities. This is the great challenge for all of us. The enormous pressure of the world and our own stubborn self-will make it extraordinarily difficult to sustain any consistent awareness of God's presence. But it is far from impossible. So why is it called the daily office? The word office comes from the Latin word opus, or work. For the early church, the daily office, praying at fixed times throughout the day, was always the first work of God to be done. Nothing was to interfere with that priority. But this practice of fixed-hour prayer is one that actually long predates the early church. 3,000 years ago, King David practiced set times of prayer 7 times a day. Psalm 119, verse 164. The prophet Daniel prayed 3 times a day. Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. Devout Jews in Jesus' time prayed at morning, afternoon, and evening. Such set times of prayer were one of the Israelites' great spiritual and cultural treasures, a practical way to keep their lives centered on loving God at all times. Even after the resurrection, Jesus' disciples continued to pray at certain hours of the day. Acts chapter 3, verse 1, chapter 10, verses 2 through 23. It was about A.D. 525 when a monk named Benedict created a formal structure for these prayer times that he anchored in 8 daily offices, including one for monks in the middle of the night. Prayer was the framework for the day, and everything else in their lives was ordered around it. Benedict wrote, "On hearing the signal for an hour of the divine office, the monk will immediately set aside what he has in hand and go with utmost speed. Indeed, nothing is to be preferred to the work of God, the daily office." All of these people, from the ancient Israelites to first-century disciples and early Christian leaders like Benedict, realized that stopping to be with God by means of the daily office was the key to creating a continual and easy familiarity with God's presence. And having practiced the daily office for over 15 years, I can affirm it has done that for me. Routinely setting aside small units of time for morning, midday, and evening prayer infuses the activities of my day with a deep awareness of the sacred, of God. In those moments, I remember that all time is God's time. There is no division between the sacred and the secular. How to use this audiobook. Emotionally Healthy Relationships Day by Day provides a flexible structure for your time with God. My hope is that you will adapt it to the unique needs and demands of this season in your life. God has built each of us differently. What works for one person will not necessarily work